Lauri will present on BiblioGraph and demo how BiblioGraph can expand the visibility of your catalog and collections by connecting with your students and researchers wherever they are on the web. Lauri will describe how BiblioGraph is an innovative solution that transforms academic libraries' collections into linked data resources by utilizing BIBFRAME technology. It helps libraries to increase the visibility of their resources on the web by connecting related people, items, publishers, and topics, making it easier for users to discover and access the library's materials online. BiblioGraph also provides automated reports and allow library staff to track usage statistics, providing insights into how often people use the library's resources. And by using BiblioGraph, academic libraries can enhance their online presence and make their resources more accessible on the web where users are searching. All right, I'll let you take it away, Lauri.
Anne-Marie, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining today. I'm Nancy Grimaldi. I'm the Field Academic Regional Sales Manager. And I'm joined by my teammate, Kristie McElroy. And I just want to say I know that EBSCO has sponsored this conference in the past, but this is our first time joining and sitting in on sessions. And so it's been really wonderful. And for those of you who haven't met us, we look forward to meeting you in the near future. I'll let Kristie introduce herself, and then I had a couple questions and I'll turn it over to Lauri.
Great, thanks, Nancy. Hi, everyone. I'm Kristie McElroy. I've been with EBSCO for about 15 years, and I'm working right now with New York and Connecticut libraries alongside of Nancy, and I'm more of the inside role. So I'm remote in Newburyport, Massachusetts, and thanks for joining today.
And so before I turn over to our colleague and BiblioGraph expert, Lauri McIntosh, I would like to ask two questions. And for anyone who'd like to post comments in the chat, we'd be interested in hearing what you have to say. So my first question is, what percentage of your students do you think begin their research on Google or on the web? First question. And second question, what percentage of time do you or your team spend updating LibGuide book links? So feel free to post your answers in the chat. And without further ado, Lauri McIntosh will share one of our newest software products, BiblioGraph.
Hi everyone, welcome. So I'm going to actually turn off my camera because it always distracts me when I'm trying to present. But what I'd like to do today is walk through a lot of information about linked data, syndication, and enrichment, and how that all impacts your library through BiblioGraph. And also just thinking about ways that you can rethink visibility of your collection out there on the web. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about that. The other thing I wanted to just mention is that we are getting ready with BiblioGraph to launch a new interface. So today I'd really like to focus on how BiblioGraph and how linked data can really benefit the library, as opposed to going into a live demo environment. But that said, I will be at ALA, and Nancy and Kristie are happy to schedule a follow-up demo with the release of that new interface, and we can dive deeper in how to do things. But today we're going to just focus more on what's possible. So when we think about BiblioGraph, our goal is to bring new visibility of your catalog out there on the web. And so we know that in order to do that, we really need to unlock items out of the ILS. We need to be present where your students and faculty are looking for information. And we need to be able to build those connections with all of those different bits and pieces. So just rethink a little bit about the use of your catalog records. So because MARC was created well before the web, it is unique to libraries individually. And so we know that ILS systems provide a whole host of opportunities and tools for those MARC records. but that doesn't help us when we want to be visible out on the web. The library software can read MARC, but it keeps everything pretty locked up. So data is really limited to what has been encoded with MARC. And so if you think about an iceberg, those item records and display are just really the top of the iceberg in the online catalog, but there's so much more information beneath the surface. And so when you think about how can I get that information out from underneath the surface and out there on the web, that's what BiblioGraph is here to support. So the solution being, what we're able to do is transform all of those MARC data bits into a web vocabulary BibFrame. So the web understands BibFrame, it understands that vocabulary. And so now we're able to transform that information that's locked underneath the surface and make it available and visible on the web. So we're going to talk a little bit about what is BibFrame, what is linked data, and how does all of that help me to become more visible on the web. So Nancy was asking about where do you think people are showing up? How many times do you think people are on Google? We've got lots of different options here and responses, but we know that people are out there on Google, they're looking for information. They may not even realize that the library is an option. And so we're going to talk about how BiblioGraph and linked data can provide that visibility. So linked data in and of itself. Some of you might be very familiar with linked data. Others, it might be a new idea. So I wanted to just take a minute and talk about how linked data applies not only in general, but also to your library collection. So if you imagine being at a party and people have a name tag, so you know who they are, but that's really all you know. And then you start to add relationships between the people. So whether you're best friends, whether you're neighbors, whether you're siblings, you can start to better identify all of the connections between the people that you are associating with. And then from there, you can add even more information. So you can add the concept of a party and the action of who it's hosted by, or the action of what it's celebrating. And now you start to see all of this vast information and connections and relationships that bring together these three people that you're, or four if you include yourself, and all of the connections that make the names even more understandable and just building those connections and those relationships between the items. So how does that apply to your data? So what you're looking at here is a graph of information. This just happens to be using GraphDB of all of a library's BibFrame resources. This is just a small snapshot. And you can start to see that whether you're looking at the subject of peace or physics or Jews, now you can also see all of the connections, not only subsections and sub-focuses, but you can also see titles and items that are part of this subject. You can see the author of Albert Einstein and all of the connections. Not only is he part of a subject on Albert Einstein, but you can also see where he's part of the focus of, and you start to see those items within your catalog, but in a much broader scope. And it's not just single item records, it's a whole host of data that is now available to be published on the web representing your catalog. Not only do you see all of the different items themselves, but you also see all of the relationships between those items. So what does that look like under the hood? You can see here just in this example, I'm just going to use the example of Albert Einstein. The web doesn't understand what a 100 subfield A is, but it does understand what a creator is. And so the creator of Albert Einstein in the BibFrame vocabulary is given a unique identifier. So this identifier is the same, whether I'm looking at an item created by Albert Einstein in my library here in Washington State, Or if I'm there in Connecticut, looking at my library, whether it's a public library, an academic library, that unique identifier for Albert Einstein is going to be the same. And thus all of those connections are now going to bring me right back to that one person. So with the BibFrame vocabulary, when we transform your data, what we do is we convert all of these MARC items into the BibFrame vocabulary, and then we publish that onto the open data platform, the library link network. And one of the things you'll notice is every library is given their own unique domain. So that lets the web know who you are, where you are, essentially your name tag, like we saw in that party example. And now it can start to see all of the connections and the relationships directly specific to my library. So behind the scenes, how does all of this work? Libraries will send us their MARC records. If you're part of Folio or EDS, we can pull your catalog records directly. If you're part of Sierra or Polaris, Sierra or Polaris, then we use the APIs to be able to get your data. So there's a lot of different ways that the library MARC data is provided to EBSCO for BiblioGraph. And we work with you individually to determine the process that will work best. BiblioGraph is ILS agnostic, so we work with all sorts of ILS systems and all sorts of different discovery layers. So there's no restrictions there. From there, once we have your data, we transform it into the BibFrame vocabulary and we create all of that linked data. Once we have that, we're also able to enrich the data with other authoritative resources and information to make that information even more robust. And then we publish all of that onto the open web. And again, you'll hear the term the Library Link Network. That's the open data platform where we publish all of the libraries that participate with BiblioGraph. And so now, not only does each library have their own graph of data with their own catalog, but we also have connections that can be created and used with other libraries that are also published onto the network. So that's a little bit behind the scenes. What happens when you become part of the BiblioGraph service is your data is transformed into those BibFrame resources. It's published onto the web. And now what? So behind the scenes, we have a couple of syndication partnerships. And what I mean by that is we have people that want to use library data out there on the web in their products and services. The two that we work with directly right now is Google and the Internet Archive and their open library. And these folks both receive daily feeds of your data. In fact, with Google, that data is syndicated to them multiple times during the day. They incorporate it into their graph of information, and from there they disperse it to other products and services. So I want to just take a moment and talk about the Google relationship. So EBSCO has a formal partnership with Google. And what that means is that we meet with them bi-weekly. We talk about data structure, what's next, what's happening. And so EBSCO has been with Google in the last 4 years as they have bought borrow options directly into their products and services. They started with libraries in the US and only ebooks, and then they expanded to multiple formats. They have most recently expanded to countries like Canada and Australia and the UK, and they've added additional formats, most recently audiobooks. So again, EBSCO's partnership with Google, we're always working with them. How can we make this better? And how can that data be structured in a way that's best going to represent libraries within Google's products and services? So what does that look like? Well, if you were to go to Google and do a search, I just finished reading Atomic Habits, and when I when I realized this conference is all about rethinking how you do things, that book was very instrumental in me thinking about new ways to build habits and get rid of old ones. So I thought that was an appropriate search. But when you do a search of Google, you're going to be brought to a search page. From there, you can take a look at the knowledge panel on the right. You can also click on Get Books or Google Books. Google now represents libraries. So in this example, they're going to represent the top 5 libraries near this person searching, and they're going to display their borrow options. So what you can see here is in Hartford Public Library, we see not only the ebook and the audiobook and the hardcover, but if I were to click on any of these different formats, I'm going to land directly in that library's online catalog. So where we do have another source of data for Google, Overdrive also sends information. With all of these examples here, it's going to take the user straight to the Overdrive page. So particularly if you're part of a consortium, you're just going to go to that vendor page and from there take action. With BiblioGraph, our goal is to get your students into the catalog. From there, they not only can see an item page and take action to check it out or put a hold on it, but now you have them inside the catalog where they might not have thought to even start at the library. So from here, they can see other items, they can see your programs, they can take a look at LibGuides and a multitude of resources because they found a particular title out there on Google. One of the things that's also important is we do track all of this for you. And when I say track, what we are able to do is determine the click. And so what you will have in your statistics is the date, the title, what kind of a device they were using, but we do not track any patron information at all. So while your statistics will tell you how many times somebody clicked on an item, it's not going to tell you who. Google also in the US has recently put out a service called What to Read Next. So for those young people that are avid Google users, a lot of them have their own little bookmark and space about titles they want to read or what to read next. And now the library is showing up in those results as well. So this is just some screenshots from my colleague's cell phone and doing a search. And you can see here the Get Book. There's also another title of just books in general. And then you'll see the borrow options. And again, clicking on the borrow, this student is going to land straight into the college online catalog. We also have a partnership with the Internet Archive and their open library service. So if you're familiar at all with the work that Brewster Kahle has been doing, he has digitized over 5 million books now that are available for anyone with access to the internet to check out. Now they do have limitations. If you've followed the controlled digital lending conversation at all, they do have limitations on how many times a book can be checked out. And so you'll often find if someone, either this is not the format that they're looking for, or the book is on a wait list. And so what we have partnered with Open Library is to determine find in a library near me. So your BiblioGraph data is sent to the Open Library every day. And so as your collection is updated, so are these results. And that's true for both Google and Open Library. You can just click on the Open Library link and it's going to bring back, using IP address, all of the libraries that have that title within about a 250-mile radius. So when your students are searching, they can now see all of the locations that you have available. And by clicking on this, they will land again straight into the online catalog. And again, just like with Google, we track those statistics for you. With both Google and the Open Library, they do not provide statistics like, well, how many times did my library show up, whether someone took action or not. But we do know that both of them get millions of views of library content on a daily basis, tens of millions within a week, and over 100 million on a monthly basis, where libraries are appearing in a search in these different locations, whether it's a knowledge panel, whether it's Google Books, the what to read on a mobile device, or in the case of Open Library, on item and work pages within their Open Library online catalog. The other option that you have for syndicating data is to connect information from the web with your catalog. So for example, what we're looking at here is just a local knowledge graph. We have some libraries that have this embedded straight into their catalog in a widget form. They refer to it as more about the author. But we also have the ability for you to create a local graph of data that connects, in this case, information about Maya Angelou from Wikidata. So you can see here, not only do we have her photo, but we also have all of the information, her statistics, social media, and other bits of information that a user would find if they were to be searching on Wikidata. Because of those unique identifiers, we're able to map the identifier for Maya in Wikidata with the identifier for Maya in BibFrame. And so now we can blend all that together in a single view. Not only are you going to see the information from Wikidata, but you're also going to see in this particular example, all of the information by Maya or about Maya. And then here in the upper right, you can see that we also have links out to other resources on the web, whether it's Wikipedia, Open Library, IMDb, etc. So one of the things that this does is it provides that bi-directional linking. So now the web starts to learn more about libraries, what you have, the type of people that you have information about. And so you've got web resources coming into the catalog by that linked data connection. And then you also have links going out of the catalog to the web. Again, that bi-directional linking just helps the web to better understand libraries, who you are, where you are, and the content that you have available. So just to kind of put that in a scenario that might make a little bit more sense, if you think about, I'm not going to use online shopping because that's been around for so long, but if you think about the early days of Yelp, you could say, hey, Siri, find a restaurant near me, and it would bring back different restaurant locations. Well, now if you go to Yelp, not only does it bring back the restaurant and where it's located, but you can get the menu, you can get reviews, you can get price points, and you can also see connections or links with other bits of information about the restaurant. You also can see things besides a restaurant that are linked, locations near me, and just, items, businesses on my street. And so it's that expanding information. Yelp provides a network of information that started off with restaurants, and now it's expanded to so much more about restaurants and eateries and reviews. So the same thing is true with library data. In the Google world, they have knowledge panels for all the libraries that identify the library and the fact that it is a library, and libraries have hours and borrow options and whatnot. So with BiblioGraph, we are just expanding that use of linked data and all of the connections of your content and putting that out there on the web for the web to become more educated on who you are, where you are, and all that you have to offer. So that's a little bit about how others are using your data. But BiblioGraph is much more than the syndication partnerships. It now allows you the opportunity to use your linked data to do a variety of things. one of which is to create carousels, widgets, people call them different things, a virtual shelf of your collection. And so we have tools that make it easy to create these, easy to share it on the web, and then also to see the impact of putting your data out there where people are looking for information. So for example, I'll use my friend Albert again. I've just done a search of all of my BibFrame resources, and I searched on Albert Einstein, and now I can see I've got 10 items by the person Albert Einstein. And so from here, I can just click on the embed, and I'm going to be brought back with HTML code that I can then embed out there on the web. Whether I'm looking to do it on a LibGuide, on an event page, or whether I want to share it with an instructor to put on a blog post, anywhere that a page can accept an HTML code, you now can provide a virtual view of your collection on the website. So here's just an example of what that might look like. We also have a tool that allows you to collaborate with others. The Library Link Collections tool provides you access to see all of your items from your catalog up against either a list of ISBNs or some hot topics. Mixes are actually just a blending of BibFrame resources on any given topic that allow you to then see that information, but only using your catalog information. So whether you're going to do something on the 50 most banned books day and you want to have a view, again, a virtual shelf of your collection on that event page, or whether you're doing something about climate change or pollination. We had last year, the libraries in Georgia were celebrating Mrs. Bush's birthday. And so there was a lot of activity around pollination in her gardens and the things that were happening there. And so we put together a few of these specific for Georgia to talk about, just renewing the use of pollen and all of that kind of stuff. It was pretty exciting. So in this list right now, these are contributed by other libraries. They are lists that we have been asked to create on behalf of groups. You'll see a blending of academics and publics and international contributions. So for example, if somebody were to put a list together like we have for any of these topics, you could go in, select your library, and then have a view of that specific to your collection. So I'm just going to pick on climate change here as an example. So I've selected my library and I've selected the topic of climate change, and I'm going to go ahead and do a preview. And now I'm going to have returned back to me the carousel. I select my layout and then I click on the embed, and it's going to bring me back the code that I can then put out there on the website. This is something that has been used quite a bit with LibGuides and program pages or instructor pages. And the thing I would point out here is when you do something on climate change, anytime you add or do weeding with your collection, this is going to automatically be updated for you. So when you think about working with your instructors or putting information into your LibGuides on topics, automatically is going to be updated when your collection is refreshed with BiblioGraph. And we do that on a monthly cadence. Here's just a couple of other examples of how you can see in the LibGuides. And the reason I showed you this is oftentimes we are asked, well, what if I have a select list of ISBNs that I want to utilize? There's a couple of different ways that you can create those lists, and we work with you individually to make sure that it matches your workflow and your resources. But you can also create a custom list of ISBNs in this example, the library wanted to have a single book jacket, but they had multiple formats and they wanted to make sure those were represented. And so there's ways that you can customize the look and feel of your embed. In this example, you've got a one book jacket per title, and then the hover over allows you to see all of the different formats held at the library. And so by clicking on any of these, I will then be directed straight to that page within the catalog. So those are just a really high level view of how you can create views of your library and your collection and put it out there on the web. And again, like we did with Google and Open Library, we track all of that for you. So whether you've created it from your BibFrame resources or you've used that collections tool, you'll be able to monitor how many times your students and faculty are coming to the catalog straight from those embedded carousels and your library content being out there on the web. We've also got some exciting work that's taking place right now. The EBSCO team is working with the Library of Congress on ways to better enrich data using BiblioGraph, as well as some work that's being done with folio libraries as well. So we're very excited to be coming soon this summer in this calendar year, connections that make it easier to see those connections with Wikidata and having your records enriched with that content, as well as we're doing work with ORCID IDs, enrichment with LCNAF, and also some work with course IDs. Again, you can start to see that linked data using these different authoritative resources and building those connections with your library catalog, how you can just really expand and expose so much more information beyond a MARC record. And I mentioned that we do all of the statistics behind the scenes. So what you're looking at here is a dashboard of all of the actual clicks that landed a student into the catalog. And so in this example here, we had over 4,800 clicks directly from Google. The link applications, that's those collections tool that we talked about, the climate change example. Embeds are simply those virtual shelves that are created directly from your BibFrame resources from your dashboard. And then the open library, and you can actually share items on social media as well. So we've got some libraries that like to promote an item that they're going to be talking about or by a recent author. You can put that currently into Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn are the social media platforms we currently support. And then when a student clicks on that, it will again bring them straight into the catalog. The open web category, I just wanted to touch on that briefly. So we talk about Google and Open Library using your data, but all of your data is published onto that open data platform, which makes it available for other search engines and web crawlers to discover your content. And so it's very possible that in doing so, you will have links to your data, to your items that will surface in an organic search, whether it's Google or Bing or Yahoo or research bots, anything of that nature. These are really hard to duplicate. So we don't, I don't want to quantify or guarantee anything in the results of organic searching, but we do track when those clicks occur. Now you can, if you notice here, see a download of the CSV file log. And what that's going to give you, if you remember, we talked about being able to see titles and dates and the devices that students are using. So when you download the CSV log, there's just a whole host of information there. And EBSCO will work with you individually to do a deeper dive into your statistics if this dashboard of information is not exclusive of what you're looking to report on. So I just want to kind of summarize all of this. I know we've covered a lot of information, But what BiblioGraph is going to do in supporting your libraries is to help build those connections between genres, between places, between people, and soon with using ORCID IDs between faculty members and researchers, and be able to pull all of those connections together. We're going to be able to help enrich your data so that you automatically will have death dates because of that LC-NAF connection, or alternative IDs, or authors' names in multiple languages. Those are all available with BiblioGraph. And because you're able to publish your content out there on the web using different carousel options, you now can have your library viewed in research guides and course materials and on department websites. And then we provide those statistics that will allow you to analyze and compare just bits of your collection within itself. And soon we will have new tools that will allow you to compare with others as well.